A weekly review is a bit like sharpening your tools for the week ahead, while also incorporating the reflections from the week past into your ritual. So the weekly review is a key component of Getting Things Done by David Allen, and it is a weekly ritual where you go through all your tasks, you process your task inbox, you look at your projects and see the status of things, you look at your objectives, and then you also plan for the week ahead so that you get all the information from your mind into an externalized system, and then you know exactly how to execute on your tasks and your projects and how to eventually achieve your objectives following the direction that you are taking in life on a weekly basis. And this can free up your mind significantly, according to people who propose this kind of approach or habit as the weekly review, which then enhances your ability to actually execute on your tasks and produce high quality output in your work. And for knowledge workers, the work is done through the mind. So there is no tangible tools that we use. And that's what the weekly review is about. It is about clearing up your mind, which is an abstract concept, yet a seemingly fundamental one for knowledge workers, because exactly for that same reason that I mentioned earlier, because the mind seems to be the most essential component of doing knowledge work. So in this video, I will show you how you could implement a weekly review practice in Notion. I do this myself, and in this video, I will use a templatized version that is similar to the weekly review process that I do, that I've been doing for about 4 years at this point. And this is also part of the great CEO within Notion template that I sell. So this is in Notion, but it doesn't have to be in Notion necessarily. You can use any other tool because it is based on principles. So as long as you have a system to track your tasks, your projects, your objectives, your knowledge, then you can implement the weekly review principles into your system and run your weekly review that doesn't have to take more than 30 minutes, at least initially, if it is not enjoyable to you. The first thing to notice about the weekly reflection and planning page is that it is a wiki. So this was a page and I turned it into a wiki from the 3-dot menu at the top right corner. So here you can quickly search for pages across the wiki, and you can also see them in a list format, or you can create any other database view, while at the same time retaining the free flow formatting that you have on a page, where you can use / command freely right there. So you can see that this is part of a broader system, and that's why this is relevant, because there is a system here to track projects, tasks, objectives, key results, and also other aspects of work management. So when I go into weekly reflection and planning, here is a button that is add new, and this adds a new page, a new weekly reflection and planning page. So this is a button, and you can see the setting that inserts a block below the button whenever this button is clicked. And that block is a page template. So this is a page that's within a button, and that's why in here I can see you're editing a template in a button. So whatever I add in here will then be reflected on the new pages clicked from this point on whenever I click that button. So let's go back here, and I'm gonna create a new page. So this page is the templatized version here. Here, if I want, I can change the date. Otherwise, it takes today, that is the date of creation automatically. But let's say in this case, I want to do week of the 26th of August. You can see at the top, there is just a quote. This is from Essentialism by Greg McEwen. Consistency is more important than quantity. So the whole idea behind the weekly review is that this is an ongoing process that you do on a weekly basis, and you can actually find it enjoyable over time once you get good enough at it and you have a clear mind and system where you can capture things, you organize things, and during the week you go to that system and process your tasks and your projects accordingly. So it can become a quite enjoyable practice over time once you have overcome that initial friction, possibly, that you experience in adopting a new system for your knowledge work. And the page structure is composed of first a reflection section. You can see here from the right-hand side, there is a table of contents. And the reflection section has a review of objectives from the Great CEO system here, a review of tasks and projects, and then there is the planning. So reflection is backward looking, and then planning is forward looking to the next week. So you can plan your tasks, or you can see your tasks for the next week, and you can also see the upcoming meetings for the next week. And then there is a final checklist. And if you use this template, or if you create your own version of the reflection and planning, you can of course customize it as needed by going into the template that I showed you earlier within the button, and then you can change the final checklist. For example, for sure there are some things that will apply only to you, but that's a structure that you can follow from a principle-based approach. So within the reflection section here, I can see the objectives, and these are the objectives with the status of active or reflection. So it's coming from the objectives database, and I can see a list of all the active objectives. So I can come here, open the objective page, and see all the details. So here is the objective. I can see the area, the quarters that I'm going to be focusing on this objective. Here are the time frames, just a list of dates from the quarters. There is a description, the status, the type. This is from the OKRs framework, committed aspirational learning. There is also a guide included in the Great CEO within template for this. Then I can see the progress from the key results. And as per usual, or as it's very common in Notion templates or database pages, there is the page in here where you can see a description of the objective, and you can also see the breakdown of the key results. So this is part of the OKRs system. That's why you can see the key results related to this objective. And key result, you can then also set the grade, the self-assessment, and this will determine the progress of that key result. Again, this is a concept from the OKRs framework, and you will find the guides here, but I'm not explaining it in detail in this video. So then if you want to review a specific key result, then you can drill down into that even further by opening that page. And here you can see the responsible person, the due date. Then you can also see the tasks related to that key result. So the objective of this review or reflection part of the weekly review is to have an overview of everything that's going on, that's currently active in your work or personal life, and make any updates needed. Because one of the key propositions of GTD is that you maintain your system up to date. Otherwise, entropy is the default of any system. And so if you do not fight that entropy and you follow the default path without reviewing your system every once in a while, then it falls into entropy and it becomes useless. And then it becomes overwhelming very easily. And then there is no system anymore. So that's really the purpose behind the weekly review, to maintain that order within the system. And once I've reviewed the objectives, then I can go down and I can review the calendar. So here is a checklist. I can check it off. I will go to my calendar. I will review the time block for the last week, see maybe what went well, what didn't go well, what wasn't expected or accounted for in the timeline. Just a general review so that I can be better informed when I time block in the future to understand what works, what doesn't work, or what I need to adapt. Then I can review the tasks completed in the past week. So whenever a task is completed, then in this task database, there is an automation that sets the completion date to today, to the current date. And so here we'll see all the tasks where the completion date is past week. So I can see also the progress that I've done, not just looking ahead, but also looking back. Then I can see the active projects. So in here, for each project, I can open it as well to drill down further to see all the status, the timeline of that project, the last review date, which I will update once I reviewed it. Then I can come to today's date and I will update it, and it will go away from the review view because now I've reviewed it. So next week it will show up again, as you can see here. If the review frequency is 7 days, but actually you can also change it according to your needs. Then within each project, I can see all the tasks, the description of that project, and then I can go ahead and do a bit of journaling. So this might be optional because it expands a bit the time that it takes to do the weekly review. But after reviewing your calendar, your tasks, your projects, your objectives, this question asks you to just journal about what's going on, what could you improve, what went well, what didn't go well. So it is a way to unclutter the mind again. That is a key principle behind this whole system. And after that part is done, we move on to planning. And the planning part is to look ahead at the week that is starting and to plan what to do, or to at least have an idea of what's the most important thing that you want to focus on, what are the projects, the tasks that you need to do, the meetings that you're going to have. So in this phase, I write down what is the top goal, what's the most important thing that you want to do in the upcoming week. And this is usually an uncomfortable task or objective or project that you've been holding on to without any reason besides limiting beliefs or some sort of resistance towards taking action toward that objective or toward that task. So that's why you might want to write that down and also include it in the GTD dashboard that you look at on a daily basis. And that is one of the steps in the conclusion checklist. And then you can look at the unprocessed tasks. So these are all the tasks that do not have a due date, a project, and a direct responsible individual, as you can see from the description of the view here. So all those tasks are going to show up here so that you can process them and assign a due date, assign a project, a responsible person if needed, but you can also delete them if they're not relevant anymore. Then you can see the tasks due soon. So these tasks are the ones where the due date is within the next week or before today. So either past due or due within the next week. So if that's the case, that means something needs to happen within those tasks. Either you mark them as done if they're not relevant anymore, or if they've been done, or you change due date. So you do something about that so that they will show up properly in the system. Then you can see tasks on hold. So these are the tasks with the status of waiting on. That means maybe you're waiting on someone else to complete that task or to update you on the status of that task. And here's where you can see all of them. And then as per usual, you can open that task and you can review all the data, leave comments and also content down the page as well. And finally, you will review the upcoming meetings. So these are all the meetings that are going to happen in the next 7 days. If you connect your Google Calendar with Notion via the API, for example, via Make, then you will see all your meetings show up in your Notion database, and that can become useful. Otherwise, you can also add them manually, just the most important ones you want to take notes on for the next week. And in here, then you can take notes, write down the agenda, for example, write down anything that you want to have or keep in mind for that meeting. And finally, there's a final checklist where you want to do some time blocking. You can contact people that you need to get in touch with, and you can also write your top goal on the GTD dashboard here, where there is a dedicated section for that. And this concludes the overview of the weekly review in Notion. That's one way to do it, primarily following the GTD weekly review concept, although it is a bit adapted based on my experience. So you can find all the relevant links in the description. There is the template for the SEO template. There's also a template for this weekly review only. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down below in the comment section of the video. For now, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.